I think testing is really important. We have to have some sort of standardized measure to know how our children are performing, and so I'm not opposed to testing as long as it makes sense.
What matters most to us is the teacher's evaluation, the handwritten personal evaluation of the student. That's what matters most to us.
Well, my first experience with math was when my kindergartner, my 5-year-old son, went and had to take the test in the library for his very first library experience. And so he was not allowed to take out a book. He was not allowed to have a normal library, the joy of finding a great book. They sat him down at a computer, they put some headphones on, and he had to take the MAP test.
I know very little about the MAP test other than when I know it's being given, I feel a bit of anxiety, and when we get the results, I am baffled.
They told us a number of things that were not reassuring. They said, okay, this is the Measures of Academic Progress test created and sold by Northwest Evaluation Association. It is actually not that well suited to kindergarten to grade 2, because these kids are still struggling with reading and computer skills. And then they said it's actually, and I said, what about advanced learners? I know they're using it for advanced learners as well. And they said, advanced learners tend to hit the ceiling on this test, so it's of limited use for them. And then it was clear to me that English language learners would also have a problem with a test where they have to read it in English. And it turns out it's also a problem for kids with special needs.
My son took the MAP test in math, for example, about a month ago. Well, first he took it at the beginning of the year. He scored in the 95th percentile. He took it a month ago and he scored in the 30th percentile. Did he regress? 95 minus 30, did he regress 65 percentiles in mathematical ability? Probably not. His teacher says he's the most advanced 6th grader in the school. Something else was going on. Kids with autism don't always perform consistently. And so what did the teacher do? The teacher said, well, we'll have him retake it. So if you have a test that you can retake at will, what does that say about the validity of the test?
This particular test, the MAP test, it doesn't match what you're actually learning or being taught in class.
It's very useless because when we take it, they give us stuff that's not in our league, as I would say. We don't really know it hasn't been taught to us. And so we can't really take something that's not really been taught to us.
And so I've heard about 2nd graders being asked about the Scarlet Letter or being asked about the Holocaust and coming home and saying, Mommy, I feel so stupid. I was asked about something on this test. I didn't know what it meant. And so what exactly is the purpose of a test that does this?
They are not machines. They are human beings. And that all of this academic it's not balanced. That's just, like I said, one intelligence, and so we start losing their essence, their innocence, their excitement for learning by just test.
We have spelling tests every week, and since I'm used to those, I don't get stressed out, but big tests, I get stressed out. And I don't do my best work because I'm thinking about how well I'm going to do.
My older son at Garfield, the concerns of the Garfield teachers, as a former teacher myself, really ring true to me. It's a test that takes a long time and monopolizes a lot of student resources, especially the computers in the library. And I thought one of the most astute comments at the board testimony last month was the computers in the library, when they are not available, that affects the students with the least resources the most, the students who don't have computers at home. And it means that for a month, 3 times a year, approximately a month, not quite, teachers can't assign long-term, in-depth research projects because there's unequal access to information. And that seems like a real social justice issue. That means unfair.
I have 2 boys, a 10th grader and an 8th grader. They've both taken the MAP test, for the last several years. And they both, they say different things about it. They don't find it particularly a useful, point of time, and my older son in particular just feels that it's kind of silly.
The first thing about it is that it's very dull, because you stare at the screen and it's, this kind of, pale blue color, and it's gray, and it's on a computer. You're staring at it for like an hour and a half.
They hurt my eyes. Then I have to stare at the computer for about an hour straight, and it really hurts my eyes.
They're both very aware that, if you get a question right, the questions get harder, and if you don't, and so sometimes they'll intentionally, they'll say, like, I got a question, I wanted an easier question, so I put in an answer that I thought was wrong so I could get an easier question.
I know a couple kids who would just kind of click through the test and just, blow it off, and sometimes those kids got really good scores.
I think a lot of people do this. They just click random things to get it over with.
It's a waste of time. Like, I had a test that's going to affect my real grade, and then I couldn't even take my test because I had to do the stupid math test.
One of the teachers testified last week at the board meeting that a student came up to her and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're boycotting the math test because I feel like it's an unfair test." And the teacher said, "Oh, really? Why?" And the student said, "Well, I have arrived in this country this year. I barely speak English, and but it's okay. I just answer with my favorite letter C to every question, and I get a passing grade." So again, that brings up real questions, the validity of the test. If random answering or same letter answering can give you an okay grade, that's not measuring anything.
It doesn't match core curriculum, and if it doesn't match core curriculum and you're tested on something that doesn't match what you've actually learned over the course of that year, then it can have an adverse impact on your vision for your academic future.
No child behind will be left. That's what we used to call it. Test. Yeah, so it's just over the top. So whatever people can do, all of us have to do whatever we can do.
I haven't seen the MAP test myself, I haven't tried to take it, but I've certainly heard things about it. And if I have a group of teachers, including some of the teachers that my kids have had, saying, this is not a good use of, our classroom time, I tend to trust them on that. I tend to believe them because they're there every day working with those kids, and they know what they're doing. Let them do their jobs.